She thought the marriage was fake until he introduced her as his wife and refused to let go. She was already wearing the ring when she realized something had gone terribly wrong. Not because it was heavy, though it was. Not because it glittered, though it caught the light in a way that made people stare, but because the man standing beside her didn't loosen his grip when the introductions ended. "This is my wife." His voice was calm, certain, final. And his hand stayed firm at the small of her back, thumb pressing just slightly, as if reminding her and everyone else in the room that she belonged there. Elena Hart smiled because she had no other choice. Inside, her heart slammed against her ribs. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. 2 weeks earlier, Elena had been standing in a bank lobby trying not to cry. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The line was long. Her phone buzzed again in her pocket, another landlord message she didn't need to read to know the contents. Final notice, she already knew the numbers didn't work. She'd run them 100 times, freelance invoices delayed, medical bills stacked, a savings account that had quietly bled out while she pretended everything was fine. She was tired of pretending. "Elena Hart?" She looked up, startled. A man in a charcoal suit stood a few feet away, tablet in hand, expensive without trying, controlled posture, eyes sharp enough to notice things other people missed, like the way she clutched her bag too tightly or how her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Yes, mister. Rowan Hale will see you now." Her stomach dropped. This was a mistake. She followed the man through glass doors into an office that smelled faintly of leather and cedar, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimal furniture, everything precise, intentional, and behind the desk stood Rowan Hale himself. She recognized him instantly. Everyone did. Billionaire investor, media ghost. A man whose name appeared in headlines but whose personal life never did. He didn't offer a handshake. He didn't smile. He simply looked at her long enough that she fought the urge to straighten her posture, smooth her coat, explain herself. "Elena Hart," he said. Her name sounded different in his mouth. "You're early." "I didn't want to be late," she replied. "Sit." She did. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Rowan moved around the desk, poured coffee into 2 cups and slid one toward her. She hesitated. "It's not poisoned," he said flatly. She almost laughed. "Almost. Thank you." He sat across from her, folding his hands. His gaze never wavered. "You responded to a listing that didn't exist," he said, her breath caught. "I what?" "There was no assistant position posted publicly. That ad was circulated privately to filter for a specific profile. You found it because someone forwarded it to you." Heat crept up her neck. "I didn't know that." "I know." That unsettled her more than accusation would have. "You have excellent credentials," he continued, strong discretion. "No criminal history, no attachments that would complicate relocation or scheduling." Relocation?" "Relax," he said, though his tone didn't soften. "I'm not offering you a job." Her heart sank anyway. "Then why am I here?" Rowan leaned back slightly, studying her like a calculation still resolving. "Because I need a wife." The words landed between them, heavy and absurd. Elena stared, then blinked, then let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "I'm sorry, this is not a joke," he interrupted. Her laugh died. "I don't even know you," she said. "That's ideal." Her pulse picked up. "You want to marry a stranger." "I want to enter into a legal marriage," he corrected, "with clear terms, a fixed duration, no emotional involvement." Her chest tightened. "Why?" "Because my grandfather's will activates in 30 days, Rowan said calmly. "And unless I am legally married, control of the Hale Foundation transfers to a board that will dismantle it." Silence. Elena swallowed. "And why me?" "Because you have nothing to gain from my name," he said, "and everything to gain from the compensation." He slid a folder across the desk. She didn't touch it. "How much?" she asked quietly. Rowan named a number that made her ears ring, enough to erase her debt, enough to breathe again, enough to tempt her into something reckless. "This isn't real," she said, more to herself than to him. "It doesn't need to be," he replied. only convincing. She shook her head. People will ask questions. They already do, he said. They'll stop once they see stability, and after. After 6 months, Rowan said, we divorce quietly, you walk away with full payment, no further contact. Elena stared at the folder. 6 months. 6 months of pretending, of lying, of standing beside a man who looked at her like a problem to be solved. I need rules, she said finally. Of course. No intimacy, she said. No shared bed, no expectations beyond public appearances. Agreed. No emotional manipulation. A pause, brief, almost imperceptible. Agreed, he said again. She took a breath. And I don't belong to you. Rowan's eyes darkened, not with anger but with something unreadable. Of course not, he said. You are not mine. The lie slid too easily from his tongue. She signed the contract 3 days later. Now, standing in a marble-floored gallery filled with donors and press and carefully curated smiles, Elena felt the weight of that signature like a chain. Rowan's hand was still on her back. A reporter leaned forward. Mrs. Hale, how long have you two been married? Elena opened her mouth. Long enough, Rowan said smoothly, tightening his grip just a fraction. To know I won't ever let her go. Her breath caught. That wasn't in the contract. Applause rippled around them. Cameras flashed. Rowan leaned down, his lips closed enough that only she could hear. Smile, he murmured. They're watching? She did. But as he introduced her again, my wife, and again, Elena realized something terrifying. This marriage was supposed to be fake. So why did it already feel like something she might lose? The first rule Elena broke was sleeping in his apartment. Not because she wanted to, because she had no choice. Rowan Hale's penthouse occupied the top 3 floors of a building that looked more like a private museum than a residence. Glass walls, polished stone, furniture arranged with mathematical precision, nothing personal, nothing accidental. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a stage. This is temporary, Rowan said as the elevator doors slid shut behind them, until the press loses interest. Elena clutched her overnight bag. I thought we agreed on separate residences. We did, he replied. Then someone leaked the marriage certificate. Her stomach dropped. Already? They're efficient. The elevator rose in silence. Elena studied the mirrored wall to avoid looking at him. At the calm way he stood, jacket removed, sleeves rolled just enough to reveal his watch and forearms. Everything about him suggested control. That scared her more than arrogance ever could. When the doors opened, Rowan stepped aside to let her walk out first. The penthouse was even colder at night. City lights stretched endlessly beyond the windows, glittering like something unattainable. Elena set her bag down slowly, suddenly aware of how small she felt in a space built for power. You'll take the guest room, Rowan said. Door locks from the inside. She nodded, relieved. He hesitated, then added, I won't enter without permission. That should have reassured her. Instead, it unsettled her. The next morning, Elena woke to the smell of coffee. Real coffee, not the burnt, desperate kind she'd grown used to making at home. She padded into the kitchen in borrowed clothes, simple, soft, and far too expensive to be casual. Rowan stood at the counter, back to her, sleeves rolled higher now, dark hair slightly mussed. He hadn't heard her yet. For a moment, she just watched. He moved with the same precision she'd noticed everywhere else, but there was something unguarded about him in the quiet morning light. Like this version of Rowan wasn't meant for an audience. Good morning, she said. He turned. Something shifted in his expression, brief, almost imperceptible, before the familiar composure snapped back into place. Morning, he replied. Coffee? Yes, she said too quickly, then more carefully, thank you. They sat across from each other at the island, separated by polished stone and the weight of everything unsaid. Rowan slid a tablet toward her. Schedule? She glanced at it. Breakfast with a board member, charity luncheon, evening gala, all today, she asked, all week. Her chest tightened. That's a lot. It's necessary. She took a breath. We should review boundaries again. Rowan looked up slowly. We have. I want them clear, she insisted. Because last night, my hand on your back, he asked calmly. Yes, that was intentional. Her fingers tightened around the mug. Why? Because someone was watching, he said, and because hesitation invites doubt. She held his gaze. You said no emotional manipulation. I didn't manipulate you, he replied evenly. I protected the narrative. That narrative involves my body, she shot back. Silence stretched between them, then Rowan nodded once. Point taken. He paused. I'll warn you next time, that wasn't the same as stopping. By day 3, Alina understood the real danger. It wasn't the public scrutiny. It was how easily the pretending slipped into something else. Rowan remembered details she didn't think she'd shared, the way she took her tea, the books she gravitated toward when left alone in a room, the subtle tension in her shoulders when someone spoke over her. At the luncheon, when a donor leaned too close, Rowan didn't raise his voice, he simply stepped in. His hand rested on her waist, firm and unmistakable. She's with me, he said, not excuse us, not my wife, with me. The donor backed off immediately. Alina should have pulled away. Instead, she stayed where she was. Later in the car, she stared out the window, heart pounding. You didn't need to do that, she said. Yes, Rowan replied quietly. I did. She turned to him. Why? He met her gaze for a long moment. Because you were uncomfortable. That answer lingered far longer than it should have. That night, Alina found herself unable to sleep. The guest room was beautiful, soft lighting, expensive sheets, absolute silence, too much silence. She wandered into the kitchen in bare feet, intending to get water. Rowan was already there, shirt undone. Jacket gone, glass of something amber in his hand. They froze, surprised to find each other. Can't sleep? He asked. She shook her head. Too quiet. He considered her for a moment, then nodded toward the couch. Sit. She hesitated, then did. They didn't touch, didn't speak. The city hummed softly outside the glass. You regret this, Alina said suddenly. Rowan's jaw tightened. No, you regret choosing me, she corrected. He looked at her, then really looked. I don't regret you, he said. The words landed heavier than she expected. Then what do you regret? She asked. Rowan took a slow breath. That I can't afford mistakes. Something in his tone made her chest ache. You're not allowed to make them, she asked softly. I'm not allowed to want things that complicate outcomes. Alina studied him, and I'm a complication. Yes, the honesty startled her. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression darkened. What? She asked. Tomorrow night, Rowan said, setting the glass down. The Hale Foundation board dinner. Her stomach tightened. What about it? They'll test you. How? They'll question the marriage, he said. Your intentions, your value. Anger sparked in her chest. I didn't sign up to be evaluated. I know, Rowan said quietly, but they will anyway. She stood. Then maybe this was a mistake. Rowan rose too fast, closing the distance before she realized it. Don't, he said. The word came out low, urgent. She looked up at him, heart racing. This only works if we stand together, he continued. If they sense weakness, I am not your weakness, she snapped. His hands came up, not touching but close, too close. No, he said softly, you're not. His gaze dropped for just a second to her lips. The air between them tightened. Alina stepped back first. We should sleep, she said. Yes, Rowan replied, we should. But as she walked away, she felt his eyes follow her. And for the first time since signing the contract, Alina understood the real risk. Not that the marriage would fool everyone, but that it was starting to fool her. Alina stopped calling it pretending somewhere around day 6. She didn't remember the exact moment. It wasn't dramatic, no sudden confession or stolen kiss. It was quieter than that, more dangerous. It was the way Rowan reached for her hand automatically when they stepped out of the car. The way his thumb traced a slow, absent-minded circle against her skin while he listened to someone speak. The way he looked at her when he thought no one was watching, like she mattered. The Hale Foundation board dinner was held at a private estate outside the city, all iron gates and manicured gardens meant to intimidate before anyone even spoke. Alina felt it immediately. The stares, the measuring glances, the unspoken question, why her? Rowan sensed it too. His hand slid into the small of her back as they walked in, grounding her. "Stay close," he murmured. "I thought you didn't want dependence," she replied quietly. "This isn't dependence," he said. "This is strategy." She nodded, but her body reacted anyway, leaning into his warmth. Inside, the dinner unfolded like a chess match. Compliments sharpened into tests, questions disguised as concern. "So, Alina," one woman said over wine, smile tight, "what do you do?" "I write," Alina answered. Rowan didn't interrupt, didn't rescue her, he let her speak. "And you left that career for marriage," the woman pressed. Alina opened her mouth. "My wife didn't leave anything," Rowan said calmly. "She chose something." The emphasis was unmistakable. The woman stiffened. "Of course." Rowan's hand tightened at Alina's waist, not possessive this time, protective. Later, as they stepped out onto the terrace for air, Alina let out a shaky breath. "That was brutal." "You handled it well," Rowan said. "You didn't have to step in." "Yes," he replied evenly. "I did." She turned to him. "Why?" Rowan hesitated. "I don't like people treating you like an accessory." The word you echoed louder than it should have. That night, Alina couldn't sleep again, but this time it wasn't the silence. It was the memory of Rowan's voice saying "my wife" like it wasn't a performance. She slipped out of the guest room and found him in his office, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, staring at a wall of financial projections. "You're working?" she asked. He glanced up. "Always." She stepped inside anyway. "You didn't answer me earlier." He leaned back slowly. "About?" "Why you keep protecting me," she said, "even when no one's watching." Silence stretched. "You're under my name," Rowan said carefully. "That makes you my responsibility." "That's not what this feels like," she replied, his gaze sharpened. "What does it feel like?" she swallowed. "Like you care?" The word hung between them. Rowan stood. The space between them vanished too quickly, his presence overwhelming, his expression unreadable. "This arrangement ends in 4 months," he said quietly. "You need to remember that." "I do," Alina replied. "Do you?" Something flickered in his eyes, too fast to name. He stepped back first. "Get some sleep," he said. She left, but she knew neither of them would. 2 days later, Alina overheard something she wasn't meant to. Rowan was on a call in the hallway, voice low. "She's temporary," he said. "This ends cleanly." Alina froze. "No," Rowan continued. "She doesn't expect anything." Her chest tightened painfully, so that was it. That night she packed a bag, not everything, just enough to remind herself she could still leave. Rowan noticed immediately. "You're going somewhere," he said. "I need space," Alina replied, forcing calm into her voice. "This isn't healthy." Rowan's jaw tightened. "Because of what you heard." Her breath caught. "So you knew." "I didn't think you'd be listening," he said quietly. "Were you lying?" she asked. "Or just saying what was convenient?" Rowan stepped closer. "You are not convenient." "Then what am I?" she demanded. Silence. His failure to answer hurt more than any insult could have. "I think I forgot this was fake," she said softly. "You didn't." "That's not true," Rowan said sharply. "Then prove it," she whispered. He reached for her. She stepped back. "That's the problem," Alina said, voice breaking just slightly. "You only reach when you're losing control." The words hit something raw. Rowan's hand dropped. "If you walk out," he said quietly, "this arrangement ends." She nodded. "Maybe it should." She moved past him, heart pounding, eyes burning. Rowan didn't stop her. But when the elevator doors closed, his reflection in the mirrored walls looked shattered. And Alina realized something terrifying as she pressed the button. She hadn't been pretending anymore, and neither had he. Alina didn't go far. She sat in the back of a cab, suitcase beside her, city lights blurring past the window like a life she was watching instead of living. Her phone stayed silent in her lap, screen dark. She didn't expect Rowan to call. That hurt more than she was willing to admit. By the time she reached the small hotel she'd booked, the kind that smelled faintly of detergent and burnt coffee, her chest felt hollow. She checked in under her own name, no hail, no performance. The room was clean, plain, safe, and unbearably empty. She sat on the edge of the bed and let herself breathe for the first time in days. Temporary, he'd said, ends cleanly. She pressed her fingers to her eyes, fighting the sting. This was what she'd agreed to, so why did it feel like morning? Rowan Hale didn't sleep that night. He stood alone in the penthouse, staring at the guest room door she'd closed for the last time. Her scent lingered, subtle, warm, infuriatingly familiar. He told himself control was safety. He told himself emotions were liabilities, and yet the silence felt like a failure. His phone buzzed at 3:14 a.m. unknown number. He answered immediately. "Rowan," his grandfather's lawyer said, "we need to talk." Rowan closed his eyes. The board had moved faster than expected. By morning, the fallout was everywhere. Speculation exploded across media outlets. Anonymous sources whispered about a contract marriage, about strategic spouses, about a wife who'd conveniently disappeared. Rowan watched the headlines in silence. He didn't correct them. He deserved the damage. At noon, the Hale Foundation board called an emergency meeting. "This instability is unacceptable," one member snapped. "Your wife leaving days before the gala." "She didn't leave," Rowan said coldly. "She stepped away." "Semantics," another replied. "The optics are disastrous." Rowan stood slowly. "Then let me be clear, my marriage is not a strategy." The room stilled. "I will not parade her for your comfort," he continued. "If you attempt to use her absence to undermine the foundation, I will dismantle the board myself." Threats were Rowan's native language. But this one carried something else: fear. Alina watched the gala from her hotel television that night. She hadn't planned to. She told herself it didn't matter. But there he was, Rowan Hale, alone, standing beneath chandeliers, answering questions with calm precision. No wife at his side. No hand at his back. Her chest tightened. "Mr. Hale," a reporter pressed, "is it true your marriage was arranged?" Rowan didn't smile. "No," he said, "it was real." Alina's breath caught. "And where is your wife tonight?" Rowan's gaze hardened. "Where she chooses to be." The interview cut. Alina turned off the TV and pressed her forehead to her knees. She didn't know which hurt more, that he hadn't come after her, or that he was finally telling the truth when she wasn't there to hear it from him. The next morning, her phone rang. Rowan's name lit up the screen. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She didn't answer, not at first. It rang again and again. Finally, she picked up. "Say it," she said quietly. "Say whatever you need to say so we can both move on." There was a pause. Then, softer than she'd ever heard him speak, "I was wrong." Her breath hitched. "I thought control meant safety," Rowan continued. "I thought if I framed everything as temporary I wouldn't lose anything." He exhaled. "I didn't account for losing you." Silence stretched. "I meant it," he said. "Every time I introduced you as my wife, every time I touched you, every time I chose you over convenience." Alina swallowed hard. "Then why did you say I was temporary?" "Because I was afraid," he admitted. "And I've never been allowed to be afraid." Her chest ached. "I don't know how to love halfway," he said, "and I didn't want to ruin your life if I failed." She closed her eyes. "You already ruined it," she whispered. "You just didn't mean to." "I know," Rowan said, "and I'll live with that if I have to." A pause. "But if you're willing," he said carefully, "I want to do this without contracts, without exits." Her breath trembled. "You don't get to decide that alone," she said. "I know." Another silence. "I'm not asking you to come back," Rowan finished. "I'm asking you to choose freely." The line went dead. Alina stared at her phone, heart pounding. For the first time there was no leverage, no deal, no performance, just truth. And that terrified her more than anything else ever had. That evening, Alina stood in front of the mirror, staring at herself. No ring, no borrowed clothes, just her. She thought about the way Rowan had looked at her when he thought no one was watching. About how he'd protected her even when it cost him power. About how he'd let her walk away instead of trapping her in something fake. She grabbed her coat, not to go back to him, but to end the lie properly. Rowan was alone in the penthouse when the elevator chimed. He didn't expect anyone. When the doors opened and Alina stepped out, his breath left him in a rush. She didn't smile. "I didn't come back for the marriage," she said immediately, "or the money." "I know," he replied hoarsely. "I came back because if this ends," she continued, "it needs to end honestly." He nodded. "Agreed." She took a step closer. "So here's the truth. I fell for you somewhere between the pretending and the quiet moments." His jaw tightened. "And I can't be with someone who only reaches when he's afraid to lose control." Rowan met her gaze. "Then don't be." She searched his face. "You'd give up the foundation for me?" "Yes." The word came without hesitation. "Would you give up me for it?" She pressed. "No." Her breath caught. "I don't want safety," Rowan said quietly. "I want you." The silence between them stretched, charged, fragile. Alina took one last step forward. "Then stop pretending this was fake," she said, "because it was." Rowan's hand hovered near her waist, but he didn't touch her. Not yet. The choice was hers, and for the first time she didn't feel trapped. She felt free. Alina didn't move right away, neither did Rowan. They stood in the middle of the penthouse, the same space where everything had started as a transaction, and for the first time there was nothing left to negotiate. No contract, no end date, no performance, just truth. "You said you'd give it up," Alina said quietly. "The foundation, the board, everything." Rowan nodded once. "If that's what it costs." "And you're not saying that because you're afraid I'll leave again?" she asked. His jaw tightened. "I'm saying it because if I build a future without you, then I've already lost." Her chest ached at the certainty in his voice. She exhaled slowly. "I don't want to be your escape from pressure." "You're not," he replied. "You're my reason to stop running my life like a balance sheet." That made her smile just a little. "You're terrible at metaphors," she said. "I know," he admitted. "You're better at them." The tension eased, replaced by something softer, warmer. Alina reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the ring. She held it between them. "This was never fake to everyone else," she said. "Only to us?" Rowan looked at the ring like it was fragile. "I didn't want you to feel trapped by it." "I did," she said honestly. "At first." She stepped closer. "But now," she continued, "I want to choose it not because of money. Not because of pressure, not because you need a wife." His breath caught. "But because I want you." Silence. Then Rowan slowly reached out, not to take the ring but to cup her face. He waited. Alina leaned into his touch. That was all the permission he needed. He kissed her, not rushed, not desperate, but deep and steady, like something that had waited long enough to be earned. Alina melted into him, her hands gripping his coat, heart pounding. This wasn't pretending. This was choosing. When they finally pulled back, Rowan rested his forehead against hers. "No more exits," he murmured. "If you stay because you want to." She smiled softly. "I'm not going anywhere." The next morning the media storm hit hard. Speculation turned to accusations, board members demanded explanations, lawyers prepared contingency plans. Rowan ignored them all. Instead, he stood beside Alina at the Hale Foundation press conference, fingers interlaced with hers, no hesitation, no distance. A reporter called out, "Mr. Hale, is your marriage real?" Rowan didn't look at the crowd, he looked at her. "Yes," he said, "it is." "And Mrs. Hale," another voice pressed, "were you paid to marry him?" Alina stepped forward before Rowan could answer. "No," she said clearly, "I was asked, I agreed, and then I stayed." The murmurs grew louder. "Because I chose to," she added. Rowan's thumb tightened around her hand. Someone shouted, "Are you staying married?" Rowan smiled, for real this time. "That's not a contract question," he said. "That's a personal one." Alina glanced up at him. "Answer it," she said softly. He did. Yes, Rowan said, I refuse to let her go. The room erupted. Later that night, the penthouse felt different, warmer, lived in, real. Elena stood by the window, city lights reflecting in the glass. You know this won't be easy, she said. Your world doesn't forgive vulnerability. Rowan stepped behind her, arms wrapping around her waist, gentle, sure. Then it will have to learn, he murmured. She leaned back into him. You're still controlling, he smiled against her hair, and you still call me out on it. Someone has to. He turned her slowly to face him. This isn't perfect, Rowan said, but it's honest. She nodded. That's all I ever wanted. He slipped the ring back onto her finger, not as a symbol of obligation but of choice. This time it felt right. Weeks later, Elena woke to sunlight and Rowan's arm around her waist, not holding her in place. Holding her because he wanted to, she smiled, tracing the edge of his hand. What? He murmured sleepily. You're still here, she said. I plan to be, he replied. And for the first time since the deal that started it all, Elena believed it completely. Because the marriage had never been fake, only the fear had been, and love, real love, had refused to let go.